The folks at Indy are starting their engines, barbecues are heating up, and kids are thinking about the end of the school year.
But for millions of Americans, this weekend is a special time for honoring not only soldiers and sailors who have passed away, but decorating the graves of other ancestors who have died. And in tonight's Oregon Trails, News Watch 12's Ron Brown looks at where some of those beautiful grave markers come from, as well as the stone from which they're made.
Stones, military straight and with grass trimmed and mowed, waits for flags and flowers at Eagle Point National Cemetery. For nearly 150 years, Memorial Day, or Decoration Day as it was first called, has been a day to honor deceased veterans. In recent decades, many families have used the day to place flowers on the graves of any ancestor. At historic Jacksonville Cemetery, Dirk Sedlecki of the State Historic Cemetery Commission is leading efforts to restore significant monuments and plots. He says that while many of these marble, granite, and limestone markers were made elsewhere and shipped into Southern Oregon, some at great expense, many others were made here by local craftsmen of local stone.
In the early days, the mid to late 1800s, there were a few marble and stone carvers in the valley, the Russells being one over in Ashland, and locally we had James Carr Whipp, and he had the Jacksonville Marble Works, and his marble business was right on California where the current telephone building stands today. And he did markers not only here in Jacksonville, but through cemeteries throughout Southern Oregon.
Sedlecki says he was in business about 15 years in the 1880s and 90s and was very successful.
This is the monument to Carrie Whipp, daughter of Whipp and his wife. And you can see what a beautiful, beautiful tribute this is to his daughter. And this is referred to as the French cradle style. And you can see the side rails. And one of the purposes of this type of a marker, especially for children, was that parents could plant flowers within the gravesite. And when they came to visit, it wasn't such a harsh reality of visiting a gravesite. It just made it a little softer and a little bit easier for them with flowers growing within the gravesite.
Flowers are often planted at these grave sites, especially in the old pioneer cemeteries. This is the Hill Dunn Cemetery overlooking Immigrant Lake near Ashland. Many plots here have flowers that were planted years ago. One of the reasons it's believed the end of May was appointed for Decoration or Memorial Day is because this is when the flowers are blooming. This cemetery has some of the valley's oldest graves, including that of one of the area's unique tombstone carvers, Ann Russell. Her husband started a marble quarry and monument business in Ashland, and when he died, having learned the trade, although she was a petite woman, she took over the business. Several of her carvings are here and at other valley cemeteries. Other stones were made in San Francisco or other cities, sold to families by traveling salesmen, such as William Lindsley Record.
There was Partridge Marble Works, Edward McGrath, and McCormick Marble Works. They were all three San Francisco marble companies. And at one time or another, he was working for one or the other. And in one case, he was working for two and had a very, very successful business.
The earliest markers were likely simple stones or wood crosses or boards. Few of those still survive. Some, like these, look like stone, but they're actually made of zinc to resist corrosion and decay. But granite and marble were the stones of choice for those who could afford them.
If people had the money, and some people in Jacksonville were able to buy Italian marble or marble from back east, and then it was shipped out. Early on, it came by ship around the Horn and ended up over in Crescent City, and then brought over by horse and wagon. So you can imagine how long it took and what the expense was to have some of those markers.
The Blair Quarry up Neal Creek in Ashland is a favorite stone source for Ann Russell, which supplied stones for many markers as well as other public buildings in Medford and Ashland.
And it was in large veins. It wasn't individual stones. You know, it was a mountain of it, just solid. And they would drill and blast and take out large chunks.
Everybody wanted this granite. A Portland bank was trying to get the granite, but they couldn't get it fast enough. He couldn't get it to them fast enough.
One of the few remaining monument companies in the area now that still makes markers is Oregon Granite Company. It's been here for more than 100 years. No longer are monuments hand-carved. Sandblasters are used to create the detailed letters and images. And those quarries, well, they're all quiet now, just as many of the cemeteries sit quietly with few people to remember who was buried there so many years ago. Memorial Day has its roots back to the years right after the Civil War, when there were so many war dead in the nation's cemeteries. Back then, they called it Decoration Day. And today, we call it Memorial Day, and we honor all of our ancestors who have passed on. In Central Point, Ron Brown, Newswatch 12.